Hello folks, my name is Mark, this is Why I Hate the World, how you guys doing? So this is a response to a guy named, he has a very strange name here, NRKNN, who seems to be into this Kekistani stuff. You know, he's got it all over his YouTube page there. But anyway, he asked me to respond to him, so I'm going to respond to him. Listen, people will die and get hurt on both sides. People on both sides will defend the aggressive actions. The alt-right isn't the only one calling out the opposing group's wrong and defending their group's wrongs. Then again, most people on both sides don't condone the bad acts that their group commits. Groups and political parties come and go, but what happened, the actual significant thing, not saying the death of someone and injury of many wasn't important, is that the Confederate statue was taken down. No matter that it is a statue remembering the South, it is a historical monument nonetheless. A reminder of extremely unique turning point in U.S. history. Germany doesn't keep up the old concentration camps because they are Nazis, but as history, as a reminder. Not only history, but culture is embedded in statues such as these. Southern U.S. culture. I'd love to see a counter-argument to my statements here, seeing that out of the two, you condemn the right more. I'd also love to see a video on your thoughts of the statues of Charlottesville and Durham being taken down. Okay, so to address your first point there about concentration camps in Germany, those aren't really monuments in the same way, you know. They keep, for example, Auschwitz, the concentration camp there, as a reminder of what happened, right? Well, it's there so that it won't be repeated again, right? Well, the statue of Robert E. Lee in Charlottesville, or wherever it was, is not there as a reminder about how bad slavery is and how bad Robert E. Lee was and how we should never allow that to come back. It's more of a celebration of Robert E. Lee. You know, these statues were put up starting, you know, right after the Civil War, but there was a spike in the number of statues that were put up during the Civil Rights era. And it was kind of like a backlash against the Civil Rights protesters, you know, kind of a big middle finger to Martin Luther King and his, you know, cohorts, basically telling them, like, yeah, you know, reminding them of their place in society, right? So the statue of Robert E. Lee is not there telling you that, you know, this must never happen again. It's basically there as a big fucking F you, you know, and know your place kind of thing. And it's celebrating the man, you know. And you bring up a good point about it's part of Southern culture, you know. And I agree, it is part of Southern culture, but I also want to say that not all cultures, you know, are equal. So you hear this argument a lot actually coming from the alt-right. And you know it applies here as well. So that's what you'll hear from people, like, for example, when they talk about Islamic culture and all the toxic parts of, you know, Islamic culture, that how they treat women and, you know, Wahhabism and fucking jihadists and shit like that. And the defense will be, it's part of my culture. And then you'll hear back from the alt-right people, well, not all cultures are equal. And I think that applies here as well. Not all cultures are equal. You know, there's a lot of good things that come out of Southern culture, you know, and there's a lot of bad things as well. And I think this is part of the bad things, you know. They get in Southern culture this idea of the lost cause of the South, you know. And if anybody out there who isn't familiar with what that is, it's kind of a revisionist history that, you know, the Confederacy was all about freedom and states' rights and not slavery. And in real life, you know, the Civil War and the Confederacy was all about slavery. You know, that's why the shit was formed. You know, go back and read some of the writings by Confederate leaders, by Robert E. Lee, by fucking the president of the Confederacy, whatever the fuck his name was, I can't remember. You know, like, go back and read some of that, and read when the states split off from the Union, you know, and joined the Confederacy, the reasons why, right? And right up, number one, slavery, you know. So, you know, it's like people say that shit like, you know, like we don't actually have proof that it's not true, right? I mean, yeah, it's states' rights to own, like, another person. The effects of slavery, you know, the after effects are still being felt by people in the South today. You know, not just the South, but all over the country, you know. Black people are the victims of racism today. You know, no one's going to deny that, right? Even to the point where occasionally someone, wearing a Confederate flag, right, on his shirt or on his truck or something will murder a black person. That shit happens all the time, There's a real famous case not that long ago. Actually, I think it was last year where these two people were driving around in their truck. They were doing a Confederate, they had Confederate flags all over their trucks and shit, and they were in some kind of like freedom convoy, and they stop at this birthday party where this black kid is having his birthday party with his family, and they got out with shotguns and went up and like pointed them in his face and shit and started calling him names and all this other crap. That's a toxic part of Southern culture, It's not unique to Southern culture, right? I'm not going to say that, but it's definitely a part of Southern culture. This romanticizing the past, this romanticizing the Confederacy, and that, and the reasons for the Civil War, and the South will rise again, and all that. And it's bullshit, So you have these fucking monuments to basically traitors all over the South that were put up as a big, fucking like thumb in the eye of people who were descendants of slaves that the people at those monuments fought to like keep enslaved, Now imagine that. Now imagine that you're, a black guy, right? Fucking, and you see this fucking statue there every single day, just reminding you that you're not, that you're 3/5 of a fucking person, okay? That you're like not, you're a second class citizen, right? No, man, okay? This is, in the United States, we are all equal under the law, all right? All of us. And it doesn't matter what state you live in, okay? It doesn't matter who you are, when you came from. When you're an American citizen, you are equal to everybody else, all right? And that's how it's supposed to be. But in real life, is it like that? Not really, okay? And these statues are a constant reminder of that. So, no, I see, here's the thing is that, I have no problem having a statue of Robert E. Lee. It just shouldn't be in a park, right? It should be in a museum, because, I think I'm going to agree with you here. Let's keep a statue of him so that people are reminded that the Confederacy is bad. And let's put it in a museum, and let's make a wing of the museum and an exhibit that basically explains the real reasons behind the Civil War, slavery, right? And the institution of slavery, and the fucking 3/5, the 3/5 compromise, and the slave trade between Africa and the Caribbean and all that stuff. Let's lay all that out and let's educate people. Let's do that, right? The proper place for that is in a museum, okay, in a university somewhere, in a school, not in a fucking public park, so that it stares you in your fucking face and just crushes your spirit. Anyway, that's all I got. Adios, folks.